Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Absolutely delighted to be joined by Ra Hokum on site, ready for the 5v5 card. Ra, it's weigh-in day. It's a historic card. We're here. We're in final prediction mode. I'm sure you've seen some amazing things whilst you're out in Saudi. So we're going to fly straight into this. We'll start off Willie Hutchinson, Craig Richards. Some have said it's 50-50 fight. Others don't see it that way. What's your prediction and how close do you see that fight being?
I think Craig's fought a way higher level of opposition than Willie. Um, yeah, he was one of the top prospects at one point, was built up the traditional way, but as soon as he stepped up, he got beaten. And he's getting rebuilt the same way, and he's, again, making that big jump up in class. Whereas I think Craig has had those acid tests through his career, fall just short against the very best. But I think the level he's at is considerably more. And I don't know if you've seen the little altercation they've had, which triggered something of a media civil war amongst our colleagues as to who's in the right and wrong. But Craig seems like he's going to have a bit more spite about him. I think he'll still be his cool, clinical self, but I think he'll move through the gears and get a stoppage after halfway stage, maybe around 6 to 8.
I like it. Craig Richards stoppage. Straight in with a nice stoppage prediction. It's what the fans want to see. And I'm sure there is, as you say, there's going to be that added bite, that added spark after the altercation. We'll move on next. Daniel Dubois, Filip Hrgović. It's a huge night for Daniel Dubois. Some have said it could be a make or break at the top level. He is only still young, we do have to remember, and it could be a case of almost a coming out for Filip Hrgović. How do you see this one going, Ra?
Yeah, I thought it was a strange decision for them to throw Daniel straight back in. I thought we could have done with a couple of more sort of mid-level contenders before going in with one of the top guys, which I think Hrgović is. But he's looked flat in his most recent performances, and I'm guessing that's why. Maybe think he's ready for the taking, that he's bored of the game now. But my concern for Daniel in this is that Hrgovic's chin, no one can dent it. And we saw the proof of that when he hit Zhang's left hand repeatedly and just smiled back at him. The knockdown weren't a real knockdown in that fight. So I don't see Daniel putting enough of a dent in him to really disrupt what Hrgović is doing. So I'm going to go with the Hrgović to outbox him quite comfortably and get a clear decision.
Yeah, I think I would have to tend to agree with you on that one. I think that's the widespread sort of feeling that Hrgović will just be too good. His boxing brain's a lot sort of more advanced of an IQ than Daniel Dubois, and I think that will be Daniel Dubois' undoing. Before we move on to the other massive heavyweight clash on the card, we'll go on to Ray Ford against Nick Bull. Now, before obviously we move on to the Hamza Shiraz fight, there's two 50-50 style fights on the card. Nick Bull, Ray Ford is one of those. We've seen Ray Ford. He hasn't looked great in the media run up. We'll see how he looks on the scales today. Where do you see this one going, Ra?
Yeah, again, most people would say that Ford's skill set is considerably higher than Nick's. He was part of that Olympic American sort of background, so he's got that great technical background. But as you said, he looks like he's dying on the scales. The ceremonial weigh-in, which is going to be televised just in about an hour, won't really tell us how bad the struggle was, because of course the real weigh-in's done this morning. But I think he might have made the same mistake Joe Cordina made a fortnight ago in staying at the division one fight too many for their payday. And because Bull, he is relentless, whatever his limitations might be technically, I don't think he gets disheartened. And importantly, his punching power carries late into the fight. I think Bull will get thoroughly outfought, maybe even battered early on, but I think he will hang in there, keep coming and coming, and the weight making will tell late on. So I'm going for a late Nick Bull stoppage.
I completely see where you're coming from with that. I like the Joe Cordina comparison. I think obviously Eddie Hearn, it is sort of geeing up speech and bigging his team and fighters up with some extra confidence. Said he still feels Ray Ford is the best in the division. I think from what we've seen, he has stayed one fight too many. I think we will see Ray Ford take the early parts of the fight. Then I do think Nick Ball will take over. I personally don't know if Nick Ball can stop Ray Ford or not. If he'll manage to get that sort of big shot. But I was edging towards a Nick Ball on points with taking a massive flurry of the later rounds. We now move on to what I feel is the best fight on the card. It's the closest fight on the card. It is a real 50-50. The winner's going to be fighting for a world title. It's Hamza Shiraz. It's Amo Williams. It's the fights we want to see in boxing. Someone's always got to go early in their career before they go into a world title fight. Ra, how do you split them?
It's so difficult to. And that's what 50-50 world title final eliminator should be. I mean, I'll be honest, it's going to come down to personal preference because I know Hamza a bit more. But I think it's going to be a litmus test for both men as prospects. They've had pretty much everything their own way in their careers so far. They're going to provide each other with the test. So I see both men getting hurt, probably both men hitting the deck at some point. I'm going to lean towards Hamza because I think one thing he's shown is steadiness through his career, how he's managed it, how he's developed it. You know, going over to LA, you know, as a prospect over there, he talked about how all these macho Latino fighters were queuing up to knock him out in sparring. And I just think experiences like that might have forged the mental toughness for him to get through probably the first crisis of his career. Like I said, I do expect him probably to hit the deck at some point. So I think I'll go with Hamza to weather some early storms and then box his way to a decision.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. This is a true and proper acid test for both men. It is a trial by fire. It's a case of, like you say, it's the best of the rest almost. And the winner of this, it's not a great division at present, middleweight. I think whoever wins this probably does sweep up the majority of the bouts in the division. I'm going to edge with Hamza Shiraz. I think we're going to see some real sort of almost phone booth style fighting, head to head, chin to chin. And I really think I wouldn't even say it's going to steal the show. I think this is it will be the fight that everyone's talking about come Sunday morning. We move on to the big guys of the evening, the big guys of the card. It's Deontay Wilder against Zhilei Zhang. There's not much of an introduction needed. Two huge punchers, two men at a stage of their career where I do feel it's a case of not necessarily do or die, but you do look at the loser and sort of where do they go next? Their age, all factors considered. Ra, I'm sure I sort of half know where your predictions go in. There's no way surely this can go to points.
No, I think a lot of our media colleagues, people like Andy Clark, have said if it does go 12 rounds, it'll be because it turned out to be a stinker and because both men are just way past it. My views on Wilder are a bit different to most. I didn't interpret his last fight as being indicative of him being shot. I thought, he's diminished with age, but I don't think he's shot. He can still do the 12 rounds fairly easily. He can still hold a punch somewhat. And yes, Zhang hits incredibly hard himself. I do think Wilder will be able to get through that first half of the fight, and then we know Zhang falls away. Whatever he says about, he just didn't train properly. We know at his age, his gas tank doesn't last much beyond 6 rounds. I think he will tire greatly, and Wilder will land his equaliser. I'm going for a 10th round TKO for Deontay Wilder.
Right, I'm so glad you said that because I'm in the Zhilei Zhang camp. I think Zhang is going to come out. I think he's just going to land big shots early, and I think he'll stop him in the mid rounds. But as you've said, the later it goes on, I think you have to favour Wilder. If it goes past round 5, round 6, Zhang tires. We've seen that, and you've got to imagine that equaliser, as you say, from Wilder. If it lands in rounds 8, 9, 10, there's only one thing that's happening to Zhilei Zhang. I mean, he has shown his chin, but let's be honest, it's Deontay Wilder. It doesn't matter what your chin is. If he lands, you're going down. It's as simple as that. Ra, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to quickly break down the 5v5 and who we think is going to win tomorrow night.